I've done a lot of things wrong, and I know it. Self-inflicted wounds are the worst. The Pittsburgh Pirates this weekend had a self-inflicted wound, the likes of which you don't see happen in sports very often. We're talking about Roberto Clemente. We're talking about the nightmare of having to do two statements, not one, two statements to explain the idiocy of honoring Roberto Clemente with an outfield wall plaque, removing it, putting a sponsor instead, and not telling the Clemente family. So many layers to this. Let me start with the most interesting one to me. The Clemente family is high maintenance. You know that going in. They need communication. They need understanding. They want to be front and center. They deserve to be because of Roberto Clemente, but you got to know your customer. If you're the Pirates, you can't do something regarding Roberto Clemente without telling Roberto Clemente's family. And they violate it right off the top.
So it was moved. It was moved, right? It wasn't completely replaced. It was moved.
Taken down.
That's the dumbest thing ever. That's terrible.
They still have a statue. They have other ways that they've honored him.
They have a ton of ways.
Yeah.
But that doesn't change. And what the president of the team tried to say was, hey, listen, totally sorry, but we have a 21-foot wall. We've got so many things that we've done for Roberto.
A bridge.
A bridge. It's a really cool bridge.
But the number's retired. The number needs to be there. Straight up.
Well, there's different places the 21 is. This was an extra thing that was put because there was an available space, but they forgot to just be honest with the family and say, hey, we're giving you a little extra. We're just putting it right there, but we're trying to sell it. And once we do, we're removing it. They didn't communicate. And then they sent out their PR head to do a statement Saturday, doubling down. And then they sent out their president Sunday saying, sorry, our bad, my mistake. He wore it. I had to wear so much as team president, so much that I had nothing to do with that I would just wear.
What was the worst one that was like akin to something like this? Because this is about as bad as it gets, right? Like you're disrespecting not only a legend of the Pirates, but a legend of baseball that is celebrated across the league, and you're coming off the heels of what just happened with the government website and Jackie Robinson, and so everyone is feeling the effects of like history of our great players of color being erased. There's all of it. Is there anything that you ever dealt with that was even close to what this type of ire that you're sort of going out in front and taking the heat on?
Certainly got ire, Jeremy. I would say that what we did with Carl Barger and unretiring his number, we didn't do that probably the way we should have, and I had to take that even though I had nothing to do with it. But I had to wear that one. That's
even though
job,
it wasn't your decision to make.
No, it was not. Listen, that's your job. When you run a company for an owner or for a founder, you're the meat shield. You have to take stuff that you don't deserve to take, but you do it, you smile, and you say it's your fault. Trevor Williams, the president of the Pirates, he had to take this. But to me, what bothers me about what happened is that he was in that position to start with. When you're a president of a team, you know exactly what your inventory is, your sales inventory. You know exactly what you're doing. When you're doing a deal with Surfside, that deal doesn't get done without the president signing the deal.
And so what upsets you is that he made that decision and didn't communicate it to the Clementes, right?
I'm perfectly fine with the decision to sell because everyone wants the
so
Pirates
long as
to
you
raise
communicate
revenue.
with the family that you
Just communicate.
worked with.
It's one call. And by the way, the Clemente family, easy to reach. It's not like reaching someone who's disappeared into the Netherlands without cell service.
And that was part of the Clemente's statement, by the way, was that basically their frustration wasn't even the decision, which I think we should be frustrated by the decision. You know, you make a decision to honor a player, even if there are other ways that you've honored the player around a ballpark. You've honored him in this public way that everyone can see when a ball is hit down that right field line, and now you're removing it to sell and make more money when you're a franchise in the Pirates that we know their fans are frustrated with them to begin with. But the statement from the Clementes included the specific nature of the Pirates continue to do these things not only without consulting us, but without sort of consulting their fan base at large.
Well, a couple things. The statement is on the screen if you're watching this live on YouTube. If you're listening, we have a statement from the Clemente family. So I don't agree. The fan base at large is not a factor For me, I don't need to go to the fan base when I'm doing things like this. I need to go to the family, and I don't need to do it publicly. I can do it privately because then I've got the ability to say publicly, hey, I did that. It's a very much check-the-box thing. The Clemente family is a very big check-the-box family.
If you were wanting to make this decision, though, right, and the Clemente family had an issue with it, then what? How does that conversation go for you in that spot as the president of the team, right? Like, Are you actually going for a conversation where you're actually caring what they have to say, or is it just checking the box?
It's just checking the box.
Well, why don't you give the Clementes like the opportunity to match what Surfside was going to pay to continue to honor their father in that one spot?
They wouldn't. They couldn't. Totally. That's very nice. That's nice. We'd like to give you the right to match. We've sold the behind the plate. We would do this if you have open inventory and you don't want to make it look like there's open inventory. So let's say behind plate signage. There are approximately 18 units to be sold each baseball game. Half an inning. You buy a half inning behind the plate. You have a rate card. You sell it. But what if you have 3 half innings that aren't sold? You go to your existing partners and you say, hey, we're gonna throw you an extra half inning. We love you. We're not going to charge you more. But once we sell it, we're taking back that half inning.
Thank you for your business type deal.
That's it. Thanks for being here. We appreciate you. So this Clemente thing, this one area on the wall was just a, hey, we got nothing else there. We're trying to have something there. But the problem is they chose to do it with a family that is very, very much a keep score family.
But even if they weren't a keep score family, like this would be a problem, I would think, for any franchise, given the value of the specifics of the player. Like, if someone's pointing it out on social media and there's a conversation that happens, you think that essentially this goes totally unnoticed if you don't have a family that's actively participating in that legacy?
Let's face it, what brought this to a bubble was the Clemente statement, but then the Pirates dealt with it so badly. The Clementes do this. It's known around baseball. Like, there's certain families, there's certain people from the history of the game who are higher maintenance than others. Roberto Clemente is one of arguably the second greatest story of any baseball player ever behind Jackie Robinson. I would say that's 1, 2.
Right.
And I think that's a fair assessment of it. And the Clementes are celebrated. The family is brought to events. Baseball pays for them to go to events. There's a whole level of support that is deserving. But the family of other superstars do not necessarily get that support. But you got to know your customer. And that's what the Pirates, to me, did the most wrong, is they forgot. It's a simple phone call. It's Williams calling the family, and you never, with the Clementes, you don't have an account executive do it. You go, it's the top. You have to know there's certain people who can be contacted by lower level people and certain people where they have to hear from the owner, and you just have to know it. And so it just bothered me what the Pirates did, because the Pirates are getting a bunch of crap over their payroll, over their lack of revenue, and the fact that they don't win. And now this just makes it worse.
Who's the highest maintenance family that you've had to deal with?
The highest maintenance family that I ever personally had to deal with. The Alis were actually great. There was a lot to do. When you say high maintenance, I think pejorative. Don't you?
You've said they're kind of annoying to deal with, basically.
Yes.
So who, I guess, is the most annoying? Because, this sounds terrible, but the more I'm looking at this, the more I'm kind of like, there's still a lot of ways Roberto Clemente is honored in this stadium. In fact, there's a number 21 about 5 feet away from the ad that replaced the other 21. Like, there's 21s everywhere here.
It's everywhere. If you've been to PNC Park, you can't turn around without having Roberto Clemente as part of the conversation.
It's not like they erased his legacy. They sold an ad on one of the many places that they put his name and number.
You're very right, and I think that is important to sort of distinguish from the conversation we were having a couple of weeks ago and this one when I just brought up the Jackie Robinson thing, because those are two very, very different conversations that we're having. This is not completely erasing Roberto Clemente's legacy at behest of some governmental intervention. This is a totally different thing. At the same time, I do think people have a right to be frustrated by hey, here's this thing. We're already a franchise and a fan base that's frustrated, right? In a general sense. Then we've got this history, this pillar of not just a player but a person that we all admire, that's celebrated in this specific way. And now, so that the owner, who we're already frustrated with for not spending money, can make an extra quick buck, we're going to eliminate this thing that is a very public display of our love for our franchise's most beloved person. I think people have a right to be frustrated by that. I understand your perspective, David, which is your frustration stems most from how could the president have handled this differently and in a way that wouldn't have caused such a stink for baseball, for his team.
It's embarrassing.
But for a fan perspective, for someone who is a fan of the Pittsburgh Pirates, their frustration is a different one, which is really like that's how we're going to go ahead and erase something that matters to all of us, even if it's one of several different public displays. One of the public displays of our love of our hero is now going away so that we could sell it for some
Are you
seltzer.
sure about that, Jeremy? Because if the Pirates right now were 9-2 and the Dodgers with a high payroll, would this have happened? Or is it the fact that the Pirates are
the fans?
It's a matter of all of it.
The fans hate this ownership group,
Right.
Separate from this thing, so they are never going to give them the benefit.
100%.
Of the doubt. If you walk around in Pittsburgh, you will see shirts that say "Sell the team, Bob Nutting."
So that's the whole thing, that you can't give a fan base a reason. They're going to find their own reasons if the team doesn't perform, if you're not signing players who fans want you to sign. But that's why I called it a self-inflicted injury.
That's right.
And you have to avoid those if you're in a position the way the Marlins are and were, the way the Pirates are. You've got to avoid self-inflicted injuries.